Yamiche, I want to start with you, and I hope you can start us off with a TikTok of what we're going to see just a few hours from now.
Well, what we're going to see is President Zelenskyy coming to the White House, really flanked in solidarity by a number of European leaders. We put up for
What's up, YouTube? My name is Ralph, and welcome to the channel. Today, we're going to be talking about President Zelenskyy visiting the White House to beg better terms of President Trump in the peace negotiations with Russia. This, of course, coming immediately on the heels of President Putin's visit. The left is, of course, angry just to be angry. Let's go ahead and take a look at what these folks got to say so I can give my 2 cents on their BS.
Terrifying thing, because in a negotiation, you don't give the other guy something without getting something in return. But that's what Trump just did. Trump just tweeted 3 things, actually, he gave Putin. 1, he blamed Zelenskyy and the Ukrainians for the war. He said they're the only ones that can end it. No, actually, you know who can end the war, Donald? The guy who invaded Ukraine for no reason in the first place, Vladimir Putin. All he has to do is snap his fingers, the war stops. Second of all, Trump is now giving Putin Crimea. Crimea is the territory of Ukraine that Putin stole in 2014. Trump just gave it to him today and said, not part of the negotiation. Putin gets to keep it, again, in exchange for nothing. And finally, Trump said that Ukraine will not be joining NATO, one of Putin's key demands. Trump has now given Putin 3 things. 1, blaming Ukraine for the war. 2, giving Putin Crimea. 3, giving Putin a ban on Ukraine joining NATO. What did Trump...
I don't know what this guy thinks that Trump is supposed to offer in order to end this.
Donald Trump just unilaterally gave in to Vladimir Putin on 2 key points in the Ukraine negotiation, which is really kind of a terrifying thing, because in a negotiation, you don't give the other guy something without getting something in return. But that's what Trump just did. Trump just tweeted 3 things, actually, he gave Putin. 1,
I don't know if these people forget that Ukraine isn't a United States of America.
Donald Trump just unilaterally gave in to Vladimir Putin on 2 key points in the Ukraine negotiation, which is really kind of a terrifying thing, because in a negotiation, you don't give the other guy something without getting something in return. But that's what Trump just did. Trump just...
Okay, let me stop you right there. What are we getting in return for any of this? I mean, we are getting something in return, but it's not what anyone thinks about. And I'll save that for later. But insofar as what this guy's talking about, what are we getting in return? The United States of America. Because we're not at war, so we're not getting peace. Are we getting any money? No. What are we getting? Nothing. This isn't even on us. This isn't our problem. Ukraine isn't a NATO state. They're begging us to resolve this issue. Now, there's obviously geopolitical benefits to being the one that puts an end to conflicts. We all know the prestige, the respect, blah, 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 that gets one on the global stage. But ultimately, materially, we get nothing from ending this war. And as a matter of fact, we get a whole lot more from the war and the continuation of the war. And I'm not talking about NATO, I'm not talking about Europe, I'm talking about us, the United States of America. And what we're getting is greater security. And they always, they act like this security threat is somehow a threat to us. We're on the other side of the goddamn planet. We have no existential threat. We have no moderate threat of invasion here in the United States from anybody. Canada could try. Mexico could try. They'd fail real quick. As far as all these European powers, one of the foundational principles, reasons of the creation of this nation was to disconnect ourselves from the wars and politics and drama of European powers. And here we are, Americans throwing absolute bitch fits because we aren't just all the way in there, boots on the ground, world police type shit. Which is wild because growing up, the left was always anti war. We shouldn't be the world's police, blah, blah, blah. And now that's all they want. I don't even know that it's hard to explain because I don't even think that most of these people know what they want. They're parrots and they're just puppeting or parroting what they've been told to say. You know, the mainstream media outlets in collusion with government powers have managed to manipulate everyday people into propaganda machines, and it's wild. One, I mean, I suppose that's always been a tactic. Just with the internet, it's so much more pervasive. It can spread so much faster. Um. Anyways, though, let's listen to this guy fuck cry some more.
Tweeted three things actually he gave Putin. One, he blamed Zelensky and the Ukrainians for the war. He said they're the only ones that can end it. No, actually, you know who can end the war, Donald? The guy who invaded Ukraine for no reason in the first place, Vladimir Putin. All he has to do is snap his fingers, the war stops. Second of all, Trump is now giving Putin Crimea. Crimea is the territory of Ukraine that Putin stole in 2014. Trump just gave it to him today.
Ukraine's never getting Crimea back. The only way Ukraine ever gets Crimea back is if Europe, a unified European force takes it back, or we, the United States, take it back. And that's not going to fucking happen because Russia has nukes. And they will use those, or at least presumably will use tactical nukes as a deterrent from territory loss. You can almost guarantee it. Almost guarantee that. The logistical issues with retaking Crimea with a weaker force are insurmountable. Plain and simple. The only way that Crimea gets taken is with a much larger, pure, as far as technologically pure adversary, or, well, not even or. Even with a pure adversary with larger numbers, you're going to pay in so much blood. It's just a fact. There's only one way onto the island, one bridge, surrounded by water. So you're either looking at a column down a bridge, which obviously can be taken out from the air within minutes, or you're looking at a invasion from the water. And we already know that that is one of the most difficult undertakings that a military force can engage in. So that is it's a no-go. Now that they have that, the only way that will ever change hands back is war. Russia has absolutely nothing to gain through conceding it. So why even try to haggle over it when you know that it's not going to change? Anyways.
And said, not part of the negotiation. Putin gets to keep it, again, in exchange for nothing. And finally, Trump said that Ukraine will not be joining NATO, one of Putin's key demands. Trump has now given Putin three things. One.
Okay, now this last one is my favorite because this guy is talking about we're not getting anything. But that last one of Ukraine being told that they will not be joining NATO, that's not us asking for something. That is Ukraine demanding that Russia concede to their joining of NATO, but that's also demanding NATO membership from us. It's Ukraine that's sitting here making all these demands, refusing to give in. This is like a guy. This is like a guy who just won't stop talking shit as he's getting beat up. Just fucking quit. Now, I'd never tell an American to do that, you know. But Ukraine ain't got no chips on the board. Only chips they got is territory. And Russia's taking that. So they're going to have to make some fucking concessions. And Ukraine demanding to be a part of NATO is asking for concessions from Russia and the United States. Like, who the fuck is Zelensky? Who does this guy think he is? Seriously. You're not in NATO. We owe you no obligation militarily for defense. We don't even owe you the weapons that we've been sending. And still making demands as if you have any power in the situation. Me personally, the way I see the Russian war, it's sad, it's tragic, yeah, people are dying. That's just the reality of the world. The reality of the world is that this ongoing war in Ukraine bleeds Russia of resources, men, money, experience, all of that. All the continuation of this war does is further weaken Russia. And I'm fine with that. In my view, that is our geopolitical aim. To maintain a manageable Russia. And how you do that is by making sure that they never exceed a certain economic or military level. And we don't even have to do it. They're doing it to themselves right now in Ukraine. And yeah, I mean, you can say, oh, Russia has the manpower to spare, but they obviously don't have the equipment and resources. That's why they've fielded so many outdated platforms. So the way I see it, the invasion of Ukraine by Russia is actually serving our peace. Now, it's obviously a threat to Europe, but again, this nation was founded on an idea of disconnecting ourselves from European affairs. So, sounds like their fucking problem. The only way we even got here, I will remind everyone, the only way we got here is because Europe tried burning down the world once, World War I, and then they were like, hold my beer, and tried burning down the entire world a second fucking time with World War II. And it's old Uncle Sam that had to step in and put a stop to both. And after the second time, yeah, sorry, you guys don't know how to act right. So now Big Daddy America's in charge. That's how we got here.
Blaming Ukraine for the war. 2, giving Putin Crimea. 3, giving Putin a ban on Ukraine joining NATO. What did Trump get in response? Nothing. Well, nothing that we know of. This is pretty bad stuff, guys. This is not how you negotiate. It's how you act with somebody who has you co-opted, who you work for. This is why Russia.
Oh my God, and there it is. Russia collusion again. 10 fucking years straight. And they're still on about a disproven conspiracy theory. Yet these people have the gall to call Trump supporters conspiracy theorists. It's so entertaining to watch QAnon flip to blue Anon. But anyways, let's finish what this asshole has to say.
Russia is an ongoing issue for Donald Trump because he constantly acts like he is compromised by Vladimir Putin. Donald Trump just used.
All right, so there you go with a Trump deranged lunatic not understanding how geopolitics or negotiations fucking work. I got one more asshole I wanted to talk about. Let's take a look. This guy right here. He seems like a real quick one.
Well, Trump fucked up the Zelenskyy meeting before it even happened. What do you know? As you can see in this True Social post, he's already set the stage for failure because he said that Ukraine will never be a part of NATO because some things just never change. That's kind of a deal breaker for Ukraine, because even though Ukraine has been offered security from NATO, there's a huge difference between being a member of NATO and getting security from NATO. Because Ukraine's number one concern is that Russia will just reinvade after some kind of deal is made, and the only way to make sure that doesn't happen is to give them NATO membership, which is exactly why Russia doesn't want that to be part of the deal. And this is why Trump is trying to take it off the table, because he knows Russia will never accept a deal that includes NATO membership in the future for Ukraine, and Trump doesn't give a shit about Ukraine's long-term sovereignty. He just cares about making a deal so he can chase a Nobel Peace Prize. But Ukraine...
But the real question is why? Why should Trump care about Ukrainian sovereignty? Or any American for that matter? It's not our nation. It's not even our ally, technically. At least not in a militaristic sense that is so strong that we are in some way obliged to go to war for them or even support their effort to defend themselves. We don't owe Ukraine any money. If Ukraine was so concerned about its perpetual sovereignty, it shouldn't have gave up its nukes. Simple answer right there. Had they never surrendered those nukes, Russia wouldn't be there right now. No one would ever invade them. That's the way the world works. All these people that are so concerned about freedom and the loss of life don't actually understand how the world works. They're either naive enough to believe that global peace is achievable or they're performative. And my guess would be that a lot of it is performative, most of it, in fact, because you've got all these people that are so concerned about the Ukraine-Russia war, and then a smaller subset of people worried about what may happen between China and Taiwan. But you never hear any of these people talk about the wars in Africa. And it seems like if you really were this humanitarian, if that was your real driving motivation, was humanitarianism, it seems like that you would be aware of not necessarily all the suffering in the world, but you would be aware of at least more than what just so happens to be told to you by the news or the people you follow on Twitter or your social groups. I never hear anybody mention the wars in Africa that it feels like these people probably aren't even aware. And so my thing is, why do we only ever hear you talk about Ukraine and Russia? Is it because it's essentially two white nations fighting one another? Or is it because that's the hot topic that can win you some sort of moral superiority? That's my question. Because if you actually cared about people, I would think that you would be concerned about, oh, look at this. Deaths in the 2020s, 148,000 Ethiopian civil conflict. Oh, look, Mexican drug war, 82,953. And on top of that, too, we've got to consider the roughly 100,000 Americans that are being killed every year by fentanyl, majorly trafficked through and by Mexicans. It's performative. There are so many wars going on all over the world. Myanmar, Nigerian civil war, Syrian civil war, Yemen, Afghanistan, still, Congolese. A lot of these places have been at war for years too. I mean, have just been absolutely torn apart by civil war. Some of them are interstate conflicts. But you never hear any of these people talk about any of these conflicts, which is weird because the people that are most in defense of Ukraine and Ukraine's interests also tend to be the people that accuse everyone that disagrees with them of being a bigot, racist, yada yada. Well, if that's true, I just want to know why we never hear them talk about these African wars. Hmm? That seems a little weird to me. Just a little weird. Anyways.
Ukraine will never agree to anything that restricts their potential NATO membership in the future because that is their best shot at sovereignty, safety, and ensuring that Russia will never invade them again. That's why Trump's True Social post has essentially erased any chance of today's meeting being successful. Because what Trump doesn't...
Again, their best shot and certain security was the nukes that they had after the fall of the Soviet Union. But they gave that up. They gave them up without joining NATO, and that was stupid. They made a bad deal back in the day. And now they're trying to make deals as if they have a whole lot more leverage than they do. I mean, I don't really see that the Ukrainians have any leverage in this conflict. So, you know, they should have made better decisions back in the day. And you can be like, oh, they had, you can argue that they got security guarantees from the United States and NATO and everything. But they knew damn well that that wasn't the same as NATO membership. So they should have told the West back in the day, no thanks. We're gonna keep the nukes. You keep your security agreements. You know, this is this is like the the people that really think that they can rely on calling the police to save them from a home invasion instead of keeping a firearm at home. Um, nah, I'm not gonna put my money on that.
seem to understand is that Ukraine will never accept a bad deal just to end the conflict. It's not going to happen. Ukraine is never going to give up. And until Trump factors that into how he's handling the negotiations will just continue to fail. Well, Trump fucked up the Zelenskyy meeting before it even happened.
So yeah, there you have it. This guy apparently thinks that Ukraine should just be treated like they're actually the big man in the room, and the U.S. and Russia are subservient or somehow junior to Ukraine, which is utterly laughable in every fucking sense. um, I don't know. I don't know what this guy really actually even believes. Like, is he the anti-war left calling for us to essentially strong arm Russia, um, to potentially endanger our soldiers' American lives? Like, why would we do that? We have saved Europe twice and saved the world from Europe twice. It's like how long are we just supposed to be fucking Europe's big brother for all of eternity? Like, that's insane. Especially when you consider that because of these security guarantees, because of NATO, these countries kickbacks, relax, they pour all this money that they otherwise would be spending on defense. They pour all that money into socialized medicine and schooling and infrastructure and all these things that Americans, specifically Americans on the left, complain about us not having. But then they get mad when Trump puts them into a position that actually forces them to spend their money on their own defense. Everything from the left is a conflict. It's all hypocrisy. Um, you can't square the things that they actually want. There's no way. Because you push in one direction, and then they complain about that. You push the other direction, they complain about that. The only direction for them that is ever going to be right is the direction that they're in control of. This is just moral grandstanding. Like I said, if these people really cared about loss of life and freedom and things of that nature, they would be talking not only about the Ukrainian war, but they would be talking about the enslavement of Uyghur Muslims in China. They would be talking about the multiple conflicts in Africa. Um, they would be talking about the slave state of Mauritania. Despite abolition in 1981, modern chattel slavery still exists, with enslaved individuals forced to perform domestic and agricultural labor. Um, but they don't, because it doesn't suit their political needs. Yeah, as far as I'm concerned, Russia slogging it out in Ukraine, wasting men, resources, money, equipment is fine with me. Keep them tied up. Go for it. It's not our problem. Um, and it's the same thing. It's the same thing with Israel. Like, people get these personal emotional investments in these conflicts that have nothing to do with them. They call for violence and this, that, and the other, but only because they've been told that that's the important conflict right now, and that is the way to express their superior morality over others. Um, they can keep their fake morality, because I'm more worried about reality. And the reality is, Ukraine is a great buffer. Um, Israel is a great disruptor. Israel's continued existence serves our geopolitical means in that it disrupts the unification of the Middle East without itself being anywhere near powerful enough to consolidate the Middle East on its own. And that has been and likely remains to be in our best interest geopolitically. Granted, that does create the situations that allow for the widespread radicalization of people in the area. Um, it prevents them from ever becoming a unified region, and thus prevents them from ever having the ability to challenge Western hegemony. Now, you can piss and moan about Western domination of the world all that you want, but the fact of the matter is, you don't want to live under a caliphate, and you do not want to live under an authoritarian Eastern regime. So, you know, cracking some eggs to make the omelet of freedom, so be it. The reality is that empire is the only way to guarantee safety. Uh Now, of course, all things come to an end. Eventually the empire will fray and fall, just like Rome. But what comes after won't be some kumbaya utopian world of peace and harmony. It'll be another empire. So for the time being, yeah. Israel, like I said, guarantees our geopolitical aims in the Middle East. Ukraine exists as a great buffer zone between Russia and NATO. And these people need to quit acting like children, naive children that think that we're all going to be able to sit around a fire together, Muslim and Jew and Christian and Sikh and atheist, Russian and American and Ukrainian and Indian and Chinese and all roast hot dogs and have a grand old fucking time. That's not the way of the world. It has never been the way of the world, and it is likely to never be the way of the world. I mean, outside of some outside external from the earth threat, it's unlikely we ever unify on a global scale. Unless we all somehow start speaking the same language over time and become a global society in that way. But so long as we have division, it's going to exponentiate into greater division, violence, war. That's just the nature of the world. It's the nature of our species. And it's better to operate under that regime, prepare for what that entails, than it is to sit here and cry about the fairy tale world that you wish life was. So that's going to be it for today. Like, comment, share, subscribe. Tell me what you think about Ukraine. Is it an American problem? Do we have a moral obligation to help, or is that a Ukrainian and European problem? Um, like I said, my name's Ralph. Hope to see you again soon. Later, Gators.